Hey Pisces, it's Amanda Beach and I'm with Cosmic Beach Consulting, and here's your Cosmic Surf Report for July 2016. Opening up in the first week of July, we see you're traveling or you'd like to. We have a beautiful new moon in Cancer on July 4th, so that will bring some opportunities to bond with our friends and family. Cancer is your sister sign, so naturally ruling home, family, all those comfy feelings, staying in, blankets on the lawn, picnics, um, all a good pile of nostalgia for the 4th of July. And Pisces do love a bit of nostalgia. Um, and if we're not leaving, we're focusing on where we want to go. That's a big focus of this week as well. Even if you're not considering like a move or necessarily like a relocation, move of house, change of things, there is a lot of moving going on for you. The Mars retrograde might have hit you pretty hard when it comes to what you can't have in your life anymore and what you can have in your life. And so this might speak to you simply of moving on. It also could talk to you about moving up. As Mars goes direct on June 29th, we start to see the first and second gear in July. It really won't pick up completely until August, but for you, this really talks about plans. This really talks about where, destination. If you're somebody who has in the past suffered from either wanderlust or a destination issue where, everything's going to be fixed if you move somewhere, this might be one of those times where you kind of revisit those feelings. And maybe that's something that you do when you react when you feel trapped. Maybe there's a little too much routine. Maybe there's something about your routine that's really stressful. And so this kind of talks to me about escapism, because we're moving into the second week, and it also talks to me about escapism. It also talks to me about excess. So maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you're drinking too much. Maybe you're looking at, maybe you're helping out too much. Maybe you're giving too much of yourself, but there's something that's too much this week. And it's kind of a warning too, because Pisces is great at going underwater and not knowing when they've had enough, because the last thing a fish knows it is wet. So when I look at this week, it says kind of like, oh, hey, maybe not the fourth cocktail, or don't mix, your alcohols or your pills and alcohols, honestly. But, it really talks about taking a look at how we're treating ourselves and our body too. It talks about what we're putting in, like what is too much. So if too much for you is answering the phone every time one of your friends needs your help, or too much for you is, showing up for every event you're invited to, even though you don't see the same amount of support from the people inviting you, whatever that is, this week really talks about those boundaries with excesses and escapism. Again, going back into escapism, big theme for the first 2 weeks. So when we're looking at escapism, what are we trying to escape? If it's like prison, then, like you're in Alcatraz, of course you want to escape. It's kind of a miserable place. It's cold. Is it suburbia? Is it your beautiful house that you bought 4 years ago that you're kind of like completely over, and it's a lifestyle that you no longer jives with who you've become? That's an understandable escapism as well in some ways. So like if there's a need to move on because you've moved on, if it's been a level up situation for you where it's like, I've outgrown my neighborhood, I've outgrown my job, I've outgrown my lover. This is one of those times where you're really going to start to look at that. And so if you're experiencing a high amount of like staring at postcards from past vacations and wishing you were just hiding out there, it's really important to kind of say like, oh, hey, maybe I don't wish to just be in Cabo. Maybe I wish to be in Cabo for a reason. So let's kind of look at why we want to escape. Moving into the third week, we have a full moon in Capricorn. Hello. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the teacher of the hard lessons. So for you this week, I see it more being, this is kind of the week where your mojo comes back. This is kind of the week where we see you super recovering, like getting into that second gear from that Mars retrograde. Stormy Grace does a great thing about Mars retrograde. You should totally check it out. There's also a Neptune retrograde, which is, one of your buddy planets. So Sabrina Monarch was amazing and so cute. Oh, adorbs. She has a beautiful piece on Neptune retrograde, and she's a really spiritual astrologer. So I highly advise her if you're on that journey, if you're on any journey, seriously. killer. But for you, I kind of see this being like where your thoughts are kind of getting some clarity. There's a lot of clarity in the third week of July in general, but for you, it has to do with like pointed thought. Like maybe you haven't like really like maybe the solutions you're looking for and you haven't been able to come to a clear analysis. Maybe there's something you've been working on trying to learn and you haven't been able to grasp it. This is the week those skills are really going to come to a head. Anything you've been trying to learn, any mental energy you've been putting into something, this is where you're going to see the actualization of that. So, and it also could speak to me of working with, you know, your words and making sure that if you're in a position of power that you're not you're not being too sharp with people around you. That's kind of a little warning from this. And usually you aren't. I mean, like usually my fishes in my life, oh my little fish, they're so worried about everybody else being happy. They're rarely harsh. But sometimes that can come out, and sometimes this can be a result of like things boiling to a head. But this week is really a week where you're going to see a regaining of focus. And I think that's something that's like, it's pretty welcome at this point because there's been some listlessness, some drifting. All of us water signs, except for the Scorpio, of course, we're great at drifting. When it's time, we're good at going under the water. So I hear you. In the last week of July, I really would like to tell you to don't work yourself so hard. Like, don't work so hard because you feel like you have to. Don't work so hard because you feel guilty. Don't make things extra hard because you feel like you owe somebody this week. Like this week, let's really work on how we can do our work efficiently, how we can accomplish things with the least amount of casualty to ourselves, how we can give of ourselves but not sacrifice of ourselves, and how we can really streamline a process. Like maybe there's something you've put off buying. Maybe it's like an extension cord. Like I'm a musician, so for me sometimes it's like a patch cable can make a world of difference, or just like dropping $200 on a device can really like streamline a process where I've been using several things before I could replace it with one thing. And so that might be that. But it also talks to me about the kind of emotional work that you're doing. So if there are some relationships in your life where you're taking a lot of calls from someone, or you're taking a lot of shit from someone, and you don't know why, or if it's because you feel like you owe them that, or or if it's an exchange kind of thing where it's like, well, I take this from them, so I have to put up with this. Really kind of look at readjusting those boundaries. It's not necessarily to say like, hey, I'm blocking your number, you can never call me again, but just letting them know like, I can't do this every day. Or hey, maybe you should, or instead of, because it's hard for you to tell people no, but instead of just telling people to fuck off, it's you could have a kinder suggestion if you don't want to carry that kind of anxiety and guilt as you may when you have to put boundaries on people. But this week really just talks about toiling. So please analyze what you feel is erroneous and what you feel is kind of beneath you, or what is more what are you putting a lot of frustration into that you're not getting a lot of result from. And that's the fourth week for you. So a big learning month, lots of cool things going on for you, Pisces, lots of things to think about. My name is Amanda Beach. I'm available for 1.5-hour sessions. You can schedule with me at cosmicbeachconsulting.com. You can follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/cosmicbeachconsulting. Please check out my subscriptions list to check out other amazing readers, seers, and astrologers. And I will see you in August, my little fish. Have a great July.